My name is Trish and my mother-in-law is Fenna, and Fenna's probably had dementia for 15 years.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Fenna the person before her illness? What was she like? What did she do for work? What were her interests?
She was a kindergarten teacher. She'd been through the war. She went to Africa when she was married and spent a good 10, at least 10 years in Africa. She was very upbeat. She was a musician, a classical musician. Her father had made her first guitar. She loved to sing. Very much, not an attention seeker in a showy way, but just a beautiful soul. Loved to laugh, loved to have fun.
So she lives in care now, but can you share with us what the signs were that your family saw that made you seek care for Fenna?
She became quite agitated. At first we thought it was old age confusion. She would become repetitive, asking the same questions. There was just a lot of changes in her behaviour, and we knew nothing about dementia. So it was a whole new experience for us, but we knew that there was something that wasn't quite right. There were several situations that occurred that I felt could have been a bit life-threatening for her, insofar as I visited her one Saturday afternoon and she had burned a pot on the stove and then she'd gone to lie down and sleep, and that for me was an alarm bell. She talked a lot about people coming to visit her, strangers coming to the home. There were scenarios where she would call us frantically saying that someone had stolen her keys and she'd had to have the locksmith in. And all of those were foreign to us. We had never had her behave in that way. She was always very independent. So that was concerning. And Fenna wasn't in any way, she was just drifting along. She was happy in her life because she's a happy soul. So when I said someone was coming around, I said, I think it's probably a good idea you have someone to help you with care and the gardening, make things a little easier. So she was quite cooperative. Fenna was not adverse to going into aged care, but every aged care home I took her to, and I took her to ones all over Adelaide, every one of them she had the same thing to say. They were smelly and they were dirty and they were for old people, and she wasn't an old person. Fenna has fared really, really well. So the very special thing that happened to us was that she befriended another resident called Antoinette. And that was very early in the piece. And Antoinette is a very, very different personality to Fenna. She was much more introvert, quiet, but they had a connection, and it was music. Antoinette played the piano, and of course Mum had played the guitar. And as families we became friends. What we found with the dementia illness was that she loved to hide things. She would, and this was happening even before she came to Rembrandt Living, she would roll her jewellery up in little tissues and she'd hide it under the mattress, or she'd put it in a book. When she came to Rembrandt Living, she did exactly the same. So I, on a regular basis, would go to her room and I would tidy up and put some sense and order. And the first thing I discovered after she'd been here for probably about 12 months, that she had a penchant for remote controls. She probably had about a dozen of them in her room, and I thought people won't be able to turn their TVs on or their air conditioners because she had these remote controls. So we nicknamed her the bowerbird because we knew that she wasn't really stealing, she was just borrowing, and she felt they were hers. Like if she thought something was hers, she would take that regardless. But then she took on rosary beads, so there was every colour and every description of rosary beads that she collected. Glasses, and it wouldn't matter even if you told her that the person's name, Antoinette's name, was on the glasses. No, they were hers. Antoinette's put that on there so that I can't keep them. She could never for a million years accept that they weren't hers.
You've retained the power of humour in all this, but it hasn't been all smooth sailing.
Nicoline gave me a book called the GEM Workbook, and I wish I'd had that when I had first started to notice the change in Fenna, because that explains everything to me, and it explains it to me in a way that gives me hope, because when you find someone that you love as much as I love Fenna, and you lose them, but you don't lose them, and you have no longer the ability to connect or converse, and they forget who you are, there's hope. And that workbook gives me hope, because I can read it and understand her illness, but it also gives me the tools to help me to be positive. Because if I'm really honest, our family struggled a lot with this illness.